do you have a religion?
No, I don't have a religion.
No.
I mean, I'm not, okay, so I'm not a joiner. Okay, so Sigma males, I'm a schizotypical, so schizotypicals are isolated. Okay, something people don't know about schizophrenics is that schizophrenics have a tendency to put out pheromones that make people uncomfortable around them. So individuals not of my family could not stand being around my brother because he put out pheromones that basically caused them to freak out. So a lot of mentally ill produce stuff in their sweat that makes us feel bad around them. And if you ever encounter an emotionally disturbed individual in the street and you get close enough to them, you will feel that reason to back off, and it is a pheromone. And so these issues with schizophrenics are formative in terms of, you know, how we relate to people and so on, right? So it was not in the nature of my family to be joiners just because of that. And I am a Sigma male, so I'm not a joiner. So I would not have a religion in the sense of belonging to an organization that way. And I do not count religion, which is the organized discussion and analysis of an understanding, a philosophical or spiritual understanding, as being that spiritual understanding. So I live in the woo. I've always lived in the woo, right? So in my world, I go by that old, and I don't even know where it appears, but that old Christian saying that a man's self is God. Okay, so in yourself is God. Now, I have gone to some great examination into examining reality, some great thought into examining reality. And I've come up with a theory that I call the wobble. And this wobble explains magnetism in a way that no physicist in quantum mechanics or anything can explain magnetism. And I can measure the explanation. There's a part of my magnetism theory that has a measurement in it, and I can make that measurement that validates that theory. It proves itself, okay? The underlying core of that theory is that the reality we live in is a vibratory reality. Like Nikola Tesla says, frequency is everything, vibration is everything. Well, we are vibrating at 22 trillion times a second. We are vibrating into existence and out of existence 22 trillion times a second. And in between each of those vibrations into existence is a gap that the meditators call the void. And I'm a deep Zazen meditator, and I've come close to touching the void, and I know it exists. And this void is a space where there is non-existence. It happens so fast, our minds are not aware of it at any conscious level, but they are aware of it. And I will tell you right now that there is one thing and one thing only that causes us to recreate our bodies 22 trillion times a second, to jump the gap of the void, so to speak. And that one thing is consciousness. So in my understanding of reality, and if you go look at my video called Just Another Woo Cult, I get into these various frequencies. But if you go all the way down to 22 trillion times a second and touch through the gap, you touch consciousness that is there, that exists in permanency. That is what people call God. Okay, so I know I live in that consciousness. So for me, I've never felt the need for a religion.
No, but it's reassuring to have confirmation that God, as we call him, exists. I think that's cool.
Okay, so I've had confirmation in another way, much more striking and brutal, and that is that I've died in this body 3 times in this life. In this body's life, I have perished 3 times. Most recently was on Friday the 13th, July in 2018, when I perished of colon cancer. They took a colon cancer out of me that was 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters by 4 centimeters. It had blocked my intestine, and I had lost 50 pounds in the course of less than 6 months, and I perished. And in that perishing, I had the same experience that I'd had the previous 2 times of dying. And so I've had 3 times as a trend. And so I know that that's what happens when I die. And so I have confirmation that death is not the end.
Right. And is it better the world that we go to after death?
Better, we have to be careful about words. Better, how do you define better and so on? It is different. There's no fear. There's plenty of good stuff about it, and it's different. It is simply part of what we're doing. And so in my understanding, what happens is that you die, and if you are of a sufficiently deep understanding or accurate understanding, you are presented with the image of the mechanism of reality as it exists. Otherwise, you're presented with what may be described as an artificial reality, very much like the artificial reality that we're in now. You would find it very difficult to tell the difference between this materium that we're in now and the artificial reality that presents itself after death. For most people, that is the case. Myself, I've died so many times and have lived so many times that I'm at that point where I'm interacting with it on the mechanistic level. So I do not experience or see what others would necessarily see. It is not a ubiquitous experience for all. And in fact, I can assure you that everyone who dies has a personal experience of heaven, an absolutely perfect existence of timeless joy in heaven. I can assure you that this does indeed exist, but it is far more complicated than that statement would tend to suggest.